What's the difference between saying no at work when your boss or coworker simply accepts it and maybe even thanks you for it, or having them call you a bee with an itch behind your back? The difference comes down to learning how to say no at work the right way. That is exactly what I'm talking about today. If you're ready to know how to say no at work without the drama, tap that like button and let's jump straight into it. The first step to learn how to say no at work is to know what to say no to. This is a lesson way too many ambitious professionals learn the hard way. There is a difference between saying no to busy work and saying no to career advancing, high visibility work. You want to say no to the former and yes to the latter. That means before we start saying no to anything, you need to get clear on what the priorities are. What is important to your boss? Will the ask build visibility to powerful leaders in your company? Or is this work that no one is going to notice if it's done or not? This can be tricky to answer. Whether it's work you're proactively taking on or tasks you're saying yes to, focusing on making an unignorable impact is essential. Some examples of unignorable impact might be preparing to give a presentation to your boss's boss, or contributing on a project for your company's largest customer. These are opportunities to stand out at work you should not say no to. While planning or going to the next team happy hour might be things you can say no to. To determine if this is something that you should say no to or say yes to, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. Is there a benefit to saying yes? There are many benefits that there could be to saying yes sometimes, like the opportunity to build a relationship at work, being owed a favor, or getting on your boss's radar. Next, ask yourself, what is the impact? You never want to look a gift horse in the mouth and say no to an opportunity that completely aligns with your career success strategies, especially when the impact is unignorable. And if you're not sure what those unignorable impacts are, make sure you're subscribed because I'm going to dig into exactly that in my next video. Finally, ask yourself, do you have time and are you the best person for the task? There is no point in stressing yourself out by taking on extra work and suffering career burnout from doing too much when the ask isn't part of your unique awesomeness quotient and is far outside your wheelhouse. Which brings us to the next step to say no effectively at work, and that is to use the guiltless no. Let's face it, you're struggling to say no at work because you are an amazing team member and you don't want any of your coworkers being left in a lurch. You want to help, but when you don't have the bandwidth or the skills, saying yes is a bigger problem. In fact, when you say yes to things you shouldn't, you are doing your boss, your team, and your company a disservice. Something won't be done as thoroughly as it should be because you're stretched too thin. Remember that saying no means that you're actually saying yes to something that is more important to the company and to you. And if you hop over to my Instagram, I'm gonna make this into a post because I know it's a reminder so many of you need. If you feel guilty saying no, that's gonna come across when you say no at work. And the person you're saying no to is going to become defensive or maybe even argumentative. So removing all of the guilt out of saying no and knowing that it's in everyone's best interest is really important. Now that we've removed the guilt from saying no at work, it's time for us to move into step 3, which is to say no effectively. There are 3 elements to saying no effectively at work. First, you must be clear. Saying no too softly can come across as saying yes to the other person, or having them just think it's a subject of debate. For example,
"No, I'm not available,"
is much clearer than,
"I'm not sure if I can help right now."
The next element is something that I find many of my clients tending towards, and that is justifying and explaining the reason why you're saying no. If the person you're saying no to at work needs more information, they can ask for more information. You do not need to preemptively defend or argue your reason. And if you do, you're framing it as a negotiation. And it is not a negotiation. That said, when you're saying no to someone influential in your career, like your boss, you might choose to give options. For instance, if your boss wants you to drop everything that you're doing to create an urgent report, but you are already working on an urgent presentation for a client, you can say,
"Today I can either complete the report or the presentation for Acme. Which would you like me to prioritize?"
Here, you're saying no to one, but you're giving the option to select which one. Finally, when you're saying no, suggest a redirect whenever possible. Because I know the Career Bestie community is full of professionals who are eager to help each other. This is going to be really helpful to get you started saying no at work. Because you can say no and still be helpful. When you say no, simply suggest someone who can be of assistance.
Have you asked Chad? He's great at this.
Or an alternate timeline if you're just saying no right now.
I can't review your presentation today, but if you need my thoughts next week, let me know.
Of course, because you are so helpful, you're getting requests for help all the time. But you never know exactly when to expect them. That's why this next step is so important. Be prepared to say no. Think ahead of time of scenarios and scripts that you can say, especially to the managers and coworkers who are always pulling you into things. There are a lot of ways that you can say no.
I'm not available. That doesn't work for me. It's not possible for me to help today.
Find words you're comfortable to say and practice them. This way, saying no will be a reflex when Chad strolls over and tries to dump his work on you.
Hey Jennifer, mind training this customer for me?
I'm not available, but I can forward you my template.
But what if they push back, argue, try to force you to do the thing that they want you to do? Especially when you have a history of saying yes to everything at work, this can come up when you start saying no. Saying no at work is placing a boundary. Whether it's a work-life boundary and you're saying no to yet another after-hours team building event, I genuinely want to know who likes those things. Enforcing a time boundary by not taking a meeting at the weekend, or a workload boundary and saying no to a project you have no bandwidth to take on. People who are offended by boundaries are the people who need boundaries. This is where your reasons for the guiltless no come in really handy, because your reason for that guiltless no is actually what's in it for them by not pulling you into it. If you're already overworked and you cannot focus on the help that they need, say so. Not the best person for the job? Redirect them. Does it mean that some people will be unhappy? Maybe. And this is why I think it's important to be kind when you say no, to offer that redirect. But also where the final step in saying no at work effectively really comes into play. Be firm when you say no at work. When you know you're saying no to the right things, giving options when it's appropriate, like when you're saying no to your boss, it's okay to stand your ground. So what if a few boundary stompers who were abusing your time and frankly taking advantage of the fact that you're too nice at work think you're a bee with an itch? Let them complain about the fact you wouldn't do their work for them. Unless it's your boss, to be clear. While there may be some instances where you do genuinely need to reconsider saying no, like when it's your boss or boss's boss, in general, firmly holding your no and your boundaries is what will ultimately make you effective in saying no at work. Since I know so many of you struggle to say no at work because you're really too nice at work, I really want you to go and watch this video right now so that you'll feel more confident when you do say no. But before you go, if this video helped you, give it a thumbs up. Really helps my channel, makes you my favorite career bestie. Win-win situation going on. While you're down there, consider subscribing if you haven't already. And as always, my friend, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.